Hey everybody, Angie here. We have about 2 minutes to go before we get started with a little bit of yoga. Tonight we're going to have a pretty gentle practice, and so as you can see, I'm stuck inside because we have the rain going outside. So I thought tonight might be a good time to do a nice gentle session. So if you have them, because I know you're practicing from home, so if you have them, then you can use a strap. Remember, you can use like a belt for a robe if you'd like, from a robe, if you don't have a strap. And if you have blocks, go ahead and grab those blocks or some kind of object that is similar size. Okay, we're just gonna have to get creative here. So most of our practice tonight will either be sitting or lying down or on our hands and knees. So another thing that you might need is a blanket, to have a little extra padding when we are on the hands and the knees. And we're going to be doing just a little bit with lunging as well. So let's see. Just about time. All right, so it is time for us to begin. I see where a couple of folks have just now joined us, so I'm just going to repeat for you all. If you have 2 blocks, grab them. If you have a strap, grab it. And if you feel like, maybe your knees are kind of sensitive when they're on the ground in lunges or hands and knees, then you would need a blanket for a little extra cushioning. All right, other than that, we are good to go. Let's get this back just a little bit. And then we're just going to start with an opening meditation. So if you wanted to, you could take one of those blocks and you could sit on the edge of that block. And it just makes things a little more comfortable. You could also sit on the edge of a blanket, gives yourself some space in the back body. And I'm kind of just sitting on the very edge of it so that I can kind of, gravity can sort of pull me down and pull the legs downward as well. So let's begin, hands at the heart. Namaste. And so if this is your first time joining us on a Tuesday night for Facebook Live Yoga through the Neva Lomason library page, just know that it is this local library right here in Carrollton who is supporting this class so that it can be offered to all you guys for free. All right, so it's a great little library that we have, and I know we're all really excited and ready to hopefully soon be able to go and check out the beautiful renovations that they have done to the building. But they are still doing their summer reading program, so please, visit the Neva Lomason page and find out about all these programs that they still are, doing, despite the fact that we can't quite, meet together face to face in the library yet. So here we go. We're just going to start to send our awareness inward. And so for some of us, it might help to close the eyes. If you're more comfortable keeping your eyes open, then just send your gaze down the tip of your nose toward the ground, out in front of you without tucking your chin. You want to keep your head neutral, okay? So imagine as though your head is a balloon and it's just sort of lightly floating on top of the neck. Shoulders are rolled open, and if we still need to release some tension in the shoulders, you can always take the palms of the hands and rest them upright. Let the elbows hang heavy either way. And again, just going inward, noticing your rhythm of breath. Is it hard to take these deep breaths? Is it fairly easy? Are you taking deep breath at all right now? Maybe your breath is a little on the shallow side. Just taking stock, noticing, witnessing. Giving ourselves this opportunity to check in. And as always, we start to really focus on our alignment, getting the sits bones rooted, extending up through the midline of the body, reaching up through the crown of the head. As best we can, we have the pelvic bowl in a neutral position. As best we can, we're balancing our weight evenly between both sits bones, both legs, both hips. Our focus tonight, our session, kind of the theme of it, I guess, is easing in. Okay, so we're going to be doing a lot of pulsing movements to help us ease into a lot of these poses. And really, we are giving ourselves the permission to just slow down and really pay attention, really listen to the body, to the breath. And in that listening, you're going to be equipped to best honor what your body needs right now in each pose that we practice. So whether the eyes are closed or your gaze is moving down to the ground, we're just going to take a few more breaths here. Letting go of any rigidity in your posture. And as we sit for a bit longer, we're going to practice some breath work. So the breath work part of our class time tonight, our pranayama practice, is going to be 3-part breath. So 3-part breath we can practice lying down, or we can practice it like we're doing right now, sitting up, okay? And so I want you to think about, basically taking one big breath in, but instead of taking that big breath in continuously, we're going to separate it into 3 small parts, okay? So we would inhale about 1/3 of the lung capacity and hold that breath. And then on top of that, we build and inhale, sip a little more breath in and pause. And then that 3rd breath, we fill the lungs completely, and then we hold the breath for a count of 5, and I'll count us through, just so you kind of keep on this nice steady pace. And then we exhale, and we start all over again. So we're going to do this 5 full rounds, okay? And then we're just going to allow the breath to come back to its regular pattern, so its regular resting rhythm. So take a normal breath to begin. Inhale through the nose. You can keep your eyes closed. You can keep sending your gaze down toward the ground, and then exhale through the mouth. And then here we go. Inhale for 1. Pause. 2. Pause. 3. All the way. Hold the breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale it all out. And again, inhale for 1. Pause. 2. Pause. 3 all the way. Fill the lungs. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Good. Let's do 3 more rounds. Inhale for 1. Pause. 2. Pause. 3 all the way. Hold the breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. And again, inhale for 1. Pause. 2. Pause. 3 all the way. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. One last time. Inhale for 1. Pause. 2. Pause. 3. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. And just allow yourself to start to blink the eyes open as you bring your breath back into just this normal resting pattern. And you might find now that that resting pattern is a little more restful now that we've kind of extended the breath, practiced that pranayama. You might be feeling some of the kind of mental well-being aspects of practicing. And so if you want to bring a pranayama practice into your home practice, then just remember that 3-part breath. You can count to yourself. You can do 5 rounds and then rest for a few breaths. And then if you wanted to, you could do another set of 5 more rounds. All right? But for tonight, we're just going to do the 1 set for time's sake. So since we've had the legs crossed this way, let's go ahead and change the crossing of the legs. You kind of lean back on the hands to help you with that. And just switch out that crossing now. Take a big breath in. As the breath flows out, just tucking your chin toward your chest. And then inhale, looking up toward the ceiling without throwing the head back. Exhale, tuck the chin to the chest. Inhale and lift the chin, looking up but trying to keep length in the neck. One more time. Exhale. Tuck the chin. Inhale. Looking up. Exhale. Bring your head back to center. So from here, we're just going to take this left hand to the mat. Reach the right arm up. And just slowly start to come into your side bend toward your left side. And so here, as always, we might have the head turned to look down toward the ground. Or maybe we can look straight ahead out in front. Or if we can get in touch with the spiraling movement of the right side of the chest up towards the ceiling, then we might be able to come into sort of a side bend, back bend combination here. If that's too intense and you feel as though your breath is labored, then just come back to one of the other options. Slowly coming back upright. We're going to place that right hand onto the ground. Inhale. Reaching the left arm up. Same thing. Exhale. And coming into your side bend on the other side. So here's where a block might come in handy. I didn't show you on the other side, but say you can put your elbow down, forearm down onto that block. Or maybe you're really flexible, you can put it on the ground. Just making sure that we keep that left hip grounded. One more breath wherever you are. And then slowly coming back upright. All right, so we're going to do some shoulder rolls just to bring some movement there to the shoulders, some warmth. So let's start by kind of letting the shoulders come forward and then up and then back. So really trying to take up a lot of space, making really big circles here. Let's do 3 more. So we're starting in this direction. Last one. And then we're just going to come in the opposite direction. So if you were rolling back first, then roll forward like me. If you're rolling forward first, roll back. Good. Let's do 1 more. Excellent. Now inhale, lift the elbow or the shoulders rather, and exhale as you let them shrug down. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, lift the shoulders. Exhale, shrug them down. 1 more time. Inhale. And shrug them down. Good job. All right, so we're just going to make this transition now to the hands and the knees. Take your time with that. If you are sitting on the block, just kind of move your block to the side for now. We'll come back to it here before too long. Okay, and from our hands and knees, we're just going to come on back into child's pose. And we're going to use child's pose, whether the knees are, hip width apart, or maybe your knees are wider. Either way, resting the head on the hands or on the mat. Breathing here, and the theme of our session is easing in, okay? Finding the ease in this practice, but maybe you have something else, something in addition to that you would like to focus, that you would like to set as your intention. So taking this time to do just that, to set your intention for your practice. And that's something that, you can keep coming back to again and again every time you notice that maybe you need to push that reset button. Maybe you notice that you're distracted. And one more breath. And then we're just going to extend the arms out in front of us. And we're going to slowly start to bring ourselves up, the hands and knees. So on the hands and the knees, even though, we're not in down dog yet, we do have the knees on the ground, we want to keep the hands spread wide. And we want to really be mindful about pressing through the finger pads, thumb pads, in order to try to keep from dumping down into the heels of the hands and the wrists. Also activating the core, also thinking about lifting your heart up rather than letting it slump down. See what happens with my shoulders when I do that? But when I lift my heart up and I press firmly into the ground, that takes a lot of the strain out of the wrists. All right, and so we're just going to start by, rocking gently forward, rocking gently back. Keep pressing through the hands, the fingers, the thumb pads. Your toes are pointed straight back behind you, okay? Just keep going. Keep your navel engaged. Keep that navel reaching toward the spine. Good. Now we're going to add a little circling action here. So circling, stretching through the hands, the wrists, especially, even better. And if we make the circle super big, then we can get a bigger, deeper stretch through the outer hips into the lower back when I reach back, and then into the other outer hip when I reach to the side. Opposite direction now of your circles. You keep your circles really small, or like me, you might be making them bigger here, and that's fine. One more breath, one more circle, and then back to center. We're going to come into a sitting position. So come back into your dominant crossing now. I'm going to stretch the wrists a little more deeply. So make a sideways fist with that left hand, and then with the right hand, just pull the knuckles in toward the arm. And release. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Pull those knuckles in. So now we're stretching that right wrist and the carpal tunnel area of the right hand. And release. And then just shake the hands out. And we'll come back to the hands and the knees. So coming on back. Now what we're going to do here is our first, well, I guess not our first pulse, but our first twisting pulse of our session. And so here's where you may or may not need to have your block, okay? And so if you are going to use your block, then you'd basically have it right underneath your face, okay? And so we'll start with the left hand either on the block And then as we inhale, we're gonna twist toward this right side, reach that right arm up, and then as we exhale, we're just gonna thread that right arm under and look toward the left side, okay? So keep that going. See if I can get all the way in the frame. Inhale, twisting to your right, exhale, left. All right, keep that going. Inhale, twisting to the right, and then exhale, left. And then bringing your hand back down onto the mat. Turn to the other side. And so I'll show you what it looks like using the block. If you need a little extra height, that can make a big, big difference and be really helpful. So the block is right underneath your face if you're using it. Right hand is on the block. Inhale, sweep that left arm upward and look toward your left side. Remember, if the arm's just right here, that's okay too. Over time, we'll be able to lift it more. Exhale, twist, and look toward your right. Keep that going. Inhale, reaching to the left, and then exhale, twist. And one more time. Inhale, and exhale. And then placing both hands onto the mat, we're just going to press back into that child's pose again. So remember, in your child's pose, you could have the knees about hip width apart, or your knees could be they could be much wider in a wide ankle, but just taking a few breaths wherever you are. Breathing here. Every time we come into child's pose, we're grounding. And every time we're able to come into these grounding positionings, it helps us to release anxiety, helps us to let go of stress, helps us to kind of get out of our headspace for a bit and come into our bodies, parts of ourselves that we often neglect. So when you're ready from there, pressing back up to your hands and knees, okay? And we're going to take a beginning vinyasa here, all right? So for those of you that have been practicing for a while, and say, you know, you're practicing full vinyasa, then feel free, you know, to do that. That's fine, all right? But otherwise, we're just going to keep it beginner. And you might just do a beginner one with me right now, and then come into your more advanced. So hands and knees, okay? Now from hands and knees, we're going to walk the knees back a little bit and come into our half plank. So I have my knees on the ground. I have my hips lowered so that my hips and my legs are in line with my torso. Now we want to try to keep the feet down. Every time we lift the feet like this, we're actually putting strain on the knees and on the lower back. So inhale, and as you exhale, hug the elbows in, lower down with control. Inhale, roll the shoulders open, and just come into your baby balasana here. Big breath in, exhale, and lower. Hands at chest level. Inhale, pull the navel in as you come onto the hands and the knees. Exhale, downward facing dog. So the toes are curled under. If down dog is not accessible right now, then we can have the knees lowered. Or maybe if you're able to, you could put your elbows, your forearms on the ground and come into your dolphin stretch instead. So if you have wrist issues, then rather than down dog, you might practice dolphin. Take one more breath wherever you are. Exhale and lower the knees. If you did come down to the elbows, to the forearms, press back up onto the hands. And we're going to come into our Chakravarkasana pulses here. So just check in, make sure that, you know, your hands are directly underneath your shoulders, your feet, or your knees rather, are directly underneath your hips, okay? And then we just inhale and extend through the spine, Maybe lift the sits bones and the crown of the head slightly. And then we exhale and we pull the navel in. Rounding through the spine, tucking the chin. Pressing firmly through the hands. Inhale, coming back into your dog tilt, extending through your spine. Exhale, gently pulling in. So these should feel fairly pleasant. Keep it going. 3 more pulses. Inhale, dog tilt. Exhale, cat. Inhale, dog tilt. Exhale, cat. And one more time. Inhale, dog tilt. Exhale, cat. And then pressing your hips back into that child's pose. Again, pushing that reset button. Remember, folks that are, if you have high blood pressure, we're going to stack the fists, or we're going to use a block maybe to rest the forehead on. Just give yourself a little more height, a little more space there. Keep yourself safer. Remember, you can always take the knees and spread them wider if you need a little more space there too. Take 2 more breaths. And then slowly pressing up to the hands and the knees, just long enough to come into a sitting position. So now we'll come into that non-dominant crossing. Okay, so we're going to get a little deeper into the neck and just give ourselves a little break from being on the hands and knees so much before we come back and start moving into our lunges. So big breath in as the breath flows out, tucking the chin toward the chest. And this time, we're going to inhale and roll the head toward the right side. Exhale, roll the chin back toward the chest. Keep nice and extended through your spine. Inhale, roll the head to the left side. Shoulders rolled open, shrug down. Exhale to center. Inhale to the right. Exhale, center. Inhale to the left. Feels so good. Stretch the neck one more time. Center. We hold so much tension here in the neck and in the shoulders. Then it kind of moves into the jaw, and before we know it, we're clenching through that jaw. Last visit to the left side. And back to center briefly. And then lift your head back up to a neutral position. We're going to do a little bit with torso circles. So we're going to have our hands on the knees. We're going to inhale forward, let the elbows bow out, and then to your left, and then exhale, coming back. Kind of come into your cat tilt as you round the hips forward and to the side. Inhale forward, left, exhale back, cat tilt, right. 3 more forward, left, exhale back, cat tilt, right. Keep it going. And one more time. And then guess what? We're going to come back, forward, inhale, and then to the right, exhale back, and to the left. 4 more. Front, right, cat tilt back, left. 3 more. Use your hands, your arms to help support you in any way that is helpful. 2 more. And then slowly coming back up, right. Okay, so back to the hands and the knees. And here's where we may or may not need to use our blocks and our blankets, because we're going to be coming into our low lunges. And so we're going to start on the hands and the knees. Have your blocks handy though, because we're going to do a little bit of core work first, and then we're going to make our way into that lunge. All right, so one of my favorite core pulses is our bird dog pulses. So we're going to take that left knee a little closer in towards your midline. Come forward so I don't run out of the frame. And then inhale, reach that right leg back behind you. Exhale, pull the knee in toward the head toward the knee. And then inhale, reach back. Exhale, draw in, pull your navel to your spine. Inhale, reach back. Do as many of these with me as you can. We're just going to do 2 more. Exhale, pull in, 2 more. Strengthening that core so we can keep that lower back safe. 1 more. And then lower that knee down to your mat. We're going to come to standing knees, and we're going to step that right foot forward into our low lunge. So here, lunging, we're not used to, a lot of us are not used to doing a good bit of lunging. And so if you needed to, you could have your hands on the block. That gives you a lot more space. We're going to keep the lunge pretty low. We're not really going to bring the torso upright necessarily. If you keep your hands on the ground, though, see about lifting your heart just like we do when we're on the hands and knees. You might be on your fingertips here. You might have your hands on the block. Then using the block, or just, having that left hand on the ground underneath the left shoulder, we're going to start to then twist toward this right side. So right knee's bent, we're hugging that right knee in, twisting to this right side. If you know you're flexible here in your hamstring, you might be able to reach back and grab hold of the back foot. If that's not available for you today, you could use a strap, or you could just leave that part out and just keep that right arm extended. We're going to be stretching the quadricep muscle group in other ways if you can't quite have access to this, so don't worry. 1 more breath, and then release the foot. If you had hold of it, hands come back down to the mat. We're going to do another one of those gentle vinyasas. So stepping back into downward facing dog at first. Pull your navel in, pressing back through the hands, reaching the sit bones high, and then back toward the wall behind you. And then lower your knees. Walk the knees back just a little bit to come into that half chaturanga, and then slowly lower to the ground with control. Inhale, maybe slide the hands forward, Bhujangasana, your cobra. Exhale and lower. Hands at chest level. Inhale, hands and knees, or maybe you can press all the way up to plank. And then we exhale, downward facing dog. Let the head hang. 2 more breaths here. Easing in. 1 more breath. Lower your knees. We're going to come back into a sitting position. So we'll start, or we'll sit in our non-dominant crossing. So whatever that is for you, I had to think really quickly. What we've done before, that non-dominant crossing is the way you're not used to sitting, and so it's going to feel a little weird. So hands on the knees, we're going to do those trunk circles again. So inhale, let your torso come forward, and then to the left. Exhale, cat tilt as you move back and to your right. Inhale, back into the dog tilt and left. Exhale, cat tilt and right. Keep it going. One more circle in this direction. And then when we come back, center, inhale, and then switch opposite direction to your right, back, left, forward. Keep that going. And we'll do 3 more. And last one. Just feels nice through the hips, nice through that lower back, and even into the hip flexors. So back to the hands and the knees. So now I'll turn to the other side, and we'll come to the hands and the knees. So we're going to do that same sequence that we did on the other side with the bird dog pulses, the core strengtheners. So coming onto your hands and knees, that right knee is going to be a little closer in towards your midline now. And if you needed to, you could have, that extra cushioning under the knees. So inhale, and we're going to extend this left leg back behind us, right? Exhale, hug the knee into the head, in toward your head toward your knee as you pull your navel in. Inhale, reach back. Exhale, drop in. 3 more. And as you can see, I'm not using my momentum. It's almost like I'm trying to act as though my leg is moving through water. It's this sort of slow motion, controlled movement. So I really have to focus on my core strength to do it. And then lowering that knee down to the ground. We're going to come to standing knees. And I'm going to grab my blocks just to show you if we needed to, we could use these blocks under the hands. They could be on their sides, they could be flat, or for kind of the most space, we could have the blocks tall. If you don't have a pair of blocks at home and you're practicing yoga, whether you're new to the practice or not, I highly recommend going ahead and getting some. They can make a big difference in both modifying and in deepening poses that we do in yoga. So then if you're using a block, you put your right hand on that block right underneath your shoulder, and then we would just inhale and twist towards this left side. I'm making sure I'm not slumping down into that right shoulder, but again, lifting up and out, getting as tall as I can, keeping that right foot on the ground, or see about lifting the foot and perhaps grabbing it if that's available. You could also use a strap to lasso the foot, or just leave this part out altogether. You're just doing what works for you. One more breath either way, and release the foot if you had hold of it. We're going to come back into that sort of gentle vinyasa, but remember, if you want to do a full vinyasa, you can. So I'll actually demo a full vinyasa this time. Stepping back into downward facing dog. Inhale, coming forward into your plank, shifting forward. Exhale, either lowering your knees or full chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. See how my arms are extended? Exhale, downward facing dog here. Just a few more breaths. Nod your head yes. Gently shake the head no, just making sure that your head is hanging. We're not straining through the neck to try to lift that bowling ball of a head up. And then lower your knees. So back to our hands and knees. Now for those of you that are tall, especially, you're going to start walking your toes toward the back of your mat. And then notice how, I'm at the back of my mat, I have my hips right above my knees, and I want them to stay there, okay? So I'm going to move into melting heart or puppy pose. And so then from here, I keep my hips right over my knees, okay? And then I can use a block to rest my forehead on here, okay? Or I might be resting my head on the ground and bringing my hips into an extreme dog tilt, really broadening through the shoulders. If you needed to bend your elbows here, you could. And of course, if you're very flexible here, it's called melting heart because we would bring the chest down to the ground and rest the front of the chin on the ground. So this is really good for the shoulders, the armpits, even movement in the chest. We are sort of activating through the lymphatic system, so this helps to boost your immune system, which we can all use right now, especially. One more breath here. Now to come out of melting heart, we just bend the elbows and kind of reach the hips forward and down so that we can come into our Sphinx pose. So for Sphinx back bend, we have the elbows on the ground here. If you feel as though you're tightening through your glutes and you want to try to instead, relax and broaden through the sacrum, pressing through those elbows, those forearms to lift you up and away from your mat. At the same time, reaching your chest out, slightly tucking the chin to keep the neck long. Take one more breath. And then lower. So stacking one hand on top of each other, we're going to rest the forehead onto the stacked hands for a few rounds of crocodile breath. Crocodile breath, you guys have been practicing with me. I already know that this is a great coping skill, great grounding exercise for when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling anxietal, and maybe we just are not able to focus, or not able to be calm. And so let's do 5 crocodile breath now, resting the forehead on the stacked hands. You could be perfectly still here. You could maybe swivel your hips back and forth in an effort to facilitate a master release through your lower back and through the hips. Let's take one more breath here. And then bring the hands chest level. Inhale, coming on to the hands and the knees. Okay, and we want to curl the toes under. Send the hips up, downward facing dog. We're going to do that vinyasa again. So coming forward into plank, either lowering your knees or full chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. And a big breath in. As the breath goes out, lower your knees. And then we'll come back into a sitting position. So let's see, dominant, non, back to dominant, crossing. It's a way I can keep up with it. And we're going to take a gentle twist here. And so we have 2 options for that. The first option is that we would just sit with the legs in sort of a cross-legged positioning. Or we twisting to the left side first. So we'd roll that left shoulder open, place that left hand behind you, and then as you can see, my right hand kind of cross the midline to rest somewhere on this left thigh. So that's sort of the step 1, beginner version. If you want to go a little further, then we're going to take this right heel, bring it close to your left hip bone, and either have your left foot kind of on the inside of the right knee, or see if you can cross it on the outside. So remember, if this is not working for you, well then you're just going to take your twist in that positioning, and that's fine. Okay? So no matter what positioning you're in, sitting up nice and tall, get as extended as you can through your spine first. Inhale. And then as you exhale, we're just going to roll that left shoulder open, place that left hand back behind us on the ground or on a block, and twist towards this left side. Either keep hold of the left leg, the left knee with your right hand, or see about bringing the right arm to the outer edge of that left knee. If that impedes your ability to take deep breath, well then come here. If that's still not comfortable, well then you're here. We all have something we can be practicing. Take one more breath. And slowly making your way out of that twist. Let's change the crossing of the legs. So opposite crossing. Sitting up nice and tall. And remember, you might be taking the twist in this positioning. Rolling that right shoulder open, placing that right hand behind you, taking that left hand across the body. Or we might have the left heel close in by that right hip bone, right foot on the inside, or crossed over that left knee altogether. and twisting that way. Either keep hold of the knee or see about bringing your left arm to the outer edge of that right knee, right thigh. Breathing deeply wherever you are here. One more breath. And slowly start to make your way back to center and crossing the legs. All right, so we're going to come briefly up to standing just long enough to get a forward fold in. So come to your hands and knees. Curl your toes, send your hips up into downward facing dog, and start walking your feet up toward the top of the mat. Here again, use your blocks. If you need more than a block, grab a chair and put your hands, on that chair. It doesn't matter where you start on this sort of yoga journey, flexibility journey, strength journey, mental well-being, physical well-being journey. It doesn't matter where we start, just that we are consistent in this practice, and over time we're going to notice progress because of that consistency. I'm turned to the side to show you that my knees are slightly bent. I have this little micro bend in my knees rather than locking my knees out, which can cause injury. So for the next 3 breaths, just imagine as though your upper body is spilling over your legs completely. If you need to bend the knees more, if you have tenderness in the lower back, that's fine. Do that. We don't want any strain, any pain in the lower back. One more breath. All right, and then hands on the mat. Walk your feet back to downward facing dog. And we're going to start to lower the knees. We're going to keep the toes curled under, as you can see. And for some of us, we're going to stop right here, stretching the feet. A lot of times when we start yoga, we get foot cramping because we're not used to, holding the weight of the body in alignment, using all 4 corners of each foot. And so we really have to stretch those feet. So you might stay here. It can, intensify if we bring our hands back and we kind of sit, the hips back a little bit. Over time, and my head's gonna get cut out of the frame, but you'll get to see, what my lower body's doing. Over time, we can sit back, okay? But if you are sitting, I guess you're sitting back on the heels, but upright, and you wanna try to be as tall as you can, if that is the expression I'm going for. So take one more breath, wherever you are, and then just bringing the hands back down to your mat. Let your feet release. And we're going to come into our hero pose, but I want to show you guys something here because, so hero pose, Virasana, is this. I'm just sitting on my heels, essentially, but this is not accessible for all of us, okay? And it could just be a flexibility issue. Maybe it's an old knee injury issue, and so you can always come into a cross-legged positioning. But if you have a couple of blocks, then you can make for yourself a really tall bench to sit on, okay? And that can give you a lot more space. I'm not having to bend my knees quite so much to be here. All right, so using whatever props you need, and again, if those 2 blocks don't work for you, that's okay. You don't have to do hero pose, but grab your strap, however you're sitting. I'm gonna try to tilt this up just a little bit. Okay. So start at the ends of your strap, okay? And then just sort of roll your hands up with the strap, and you're going to have your hands much, much wider than shoulder width apart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, reach back behind you. Pause there halfway, or if you go all the way down, then do that. Inhale, back up. Exhale, lower down. 4 more. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, pressing back and up and lower. 3 more times. Inhale, up. Make sure that even if you're going halfway back, that's fine. If that's all we can do, then that's all we can do. Better to be here and stop than try to do that number to bring it all the way down. Because then we kind of lose the stretch. Let's do 2 more of those passes. Inhale, up. Exhale, down. 1 more time. Up. Exhale, down. Up. Exhale, down. Up. Exhale, lower down. Good. And then just set your strap off to your side. Okay. We're going to come out of hero pose and come into a sitting position, really just long enough to recline. So as you can see, I'm repositioning the camera. Have your 2 blocks handy. We won't need the strap any longer, but we will need to have those 2 blocks handy if possible. And so lowering on to your back body, hugging your knees into your chest, Apanasana. While rocking side to side here. Breathing deeply. Placing the soles of the feet down onto the ground. We're going to cross this right ankle, the outer ankle over the top of the left thigh. Reach your right arm through the legs. And, for some of us, we're holding onto the pants here, okay? You can also actually use your strap around the back of that left thigh, okay? If you can't quite reach behind the thigh, this is a great prop to use. Now, on the flip side, for those of you guys that are a little more flexible, we're just, have the hands behind the thigh, or we have the hands clasped in front of that left shin. All right, so lots of options, something for us all to enjoy and practice. Breathing into that right hip, 1 more breath. And release the left foot down to the ground. Decide if you want to be hands-free with your arms just reaching out to the side, or if you're going to use your left hand to grab hold of the inner edge of that right ankle. Because we're going to take a twist here. Inhale, and as we exhale, take that right foot across the body onto the ground or onto your block. Now right shoulder, back of that right shoulder does what it can to stay in contact with the ground. You might be looking straight up, gaze is soft, or you might have your head turned to your right side. Back to center with the head, back to center with the hips, uncrossing the leg. Same thing other side. We cross that left ankle, outer ankle over the top of the right thigh. And then remember, it may be that we have to take that strap behind the right thigh to pull it in, okay? And that's fine. Over time, we might be able to reach this left arm through the legs and, use the hands behind that right thigh to pull that right knee in, or we might be able to clasp the hands in front of the right shin. Just see what works best for you. One more breath here, breathing into that left hip. And release. We're going to put that right foot on the ground. Keep the left foot where it is, crossed over the thigh, and decide if you're going to reach your arms out by your sides, hands free, or if you're going to grab hold of that inner ankle, that inner left ankle with the right hand. And then take a big breath in either way. Exhale and move that left foot across the body towards your right side. Making sure we're keeping this left shoulder, back of this left shoulder on the ground. And I'm either looking up toward the ceiling or toward my left side, sort of to remind this left shoulder to be heavy. One more breath here. And then slowly bringing your head back to center. We're going to roll the hips back to center. And here's where those two blocks may or may not come in handy, depending on how you want to spin your Shavasana. So my suggestion, my Shavasana recommendation for tonight is to bring the feet together, bound ankle, and then have the blocks under the thighs. So with my feet, you can't really see what they're doing, but they're pressing together, soles of the feet. And if it feels as though, that brings strain to your lower back, you can always let the feet press forward a little bit, come more into a reclined star pose instead. With the arms, they can be resting by your sides, or you might even have your hands stacked, one on top of the other, as providing sort of a pillow for the back of the skull. This also gives us a nice little sort of underarm stretch into the shoulders and into the chest, that left and right pectoralis. So breathing here as we just settle. Now you can be in whatever Shavasana you want. Just get connected with how it feels to be lying on our mats with all these little points of contact between the back body and the earth. Through all of those points of contact, they're all reassurances that we are being supported completely in this moment, right here, right now. Just about 1 minute longer in Shavasana. Make sure that in your daily practice, your home practice, you are including this resting pose at the end. Don't skip it. Just a couple more breaths here. And when you're ready, just start to blink the eyes open. Take the hands out from underneath the head. Take the blocks out from underneath the thighs if you're using those props. And then just take your time rolling onto your side. Hang out on your side for a few breaths. Resting. And then use your hand to help press you back up to sitting. And then when you do come back upright, come into whatever sitting pose you prefer. And be really intentional about taking that seat. Maybe you're sitting on the edge of a block, maybe the sits bones are rooted right directly into the ground. Just see what's needed here. And then let's check in one last time. Compare how we feel now in this moment, taking this seat, how we feel in the physical body, how we feel mentally, and just the rhythm of your breath. How has that changed? How does that compare to when we first began our time together tonight? So going inward, maybe tucking your chin. The palms of the hands come together at your chest. And if you did set an intention for tonight's practice, maybe bring that to mind one last time before we go about the rest of our hopefully restful evenings. When you're ready, lifting the head back up. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I hope you're able to get onto your mat just as much as possible. I'll see you again next Tuesday on the Neva Lovinson Library page, Facebook Live, 6 p.m. Namaste. Bye, guys.